Sustainable farming. Table of content. A new season for farming. Chapter 1. The need for sustainable farming. Chapter 2. From tradition to transformation, the evolution of agriculture. Chapter 3. Soil, the living foundation of farming. Chapter 4. Water, the lifeblood of farming. Chapter 5. Biodiversity, farming with nature. Chapter 6. Nutrient cycling, closing the loop. Chapter 7. Energy, powering the farm of the future. Chapter 8. Farm economics, making sustainability profitable. Chapter 9. People and community, the social side of sustainability. Chapter 10. Technology, tools for a regenerative future. Chapter 11. Policy, building a supportive framework for sustainable farming. Chapter 12. Consumers, driving demand for a sustainable food system. Chapter 13. The future of farming, scenarios and pathways. Chapter 14. From vision to action, roadmaps for sustainable farming. Chapter 15. Measuring what matters, tracking progress in sustainable farming. Chapter 16. Technology and innovation, tools for the future of farming. Chapter 17. Collaboration and networks, scaling change together. Chapter 18. Education and training, building skills for the future. Chapter 19. Financing the transition, funding a sustainable future. Chapter 20. Social justice and equity in agriculture, a fair food future. Chapter 21. The future of sustainable farming, trends, innovations, and scenarios. Chapter 22. Conclusion and call to action, cultivating the future. A new season for farming. Farming is one of humanity's oldest stories, and one of its most powerful. From the first seeds sown in fertile river valleys thousands of years ago, agriculture has been the foundation of civilization. It has fed empires, fueled innovation, and shaped the very landscapes we inhabit. But in the last century, our relationship with farming has changed dramatically. Industrial agriculture, with its vast monocultures, heavy machinery, and reliance on synthetic inputs, has delivered remarkable gains in yield. It has fed billions, built global supply chains, and made food cheaper than ever before. But it has also left a heavy footprint: depleted soils, polluted waters, collapsing pollinator populations, rising greenhouse gases, and rural communities in crisis. The very system designed to nourish us is now one of the largest contributors to climate change and biodiversity loss. At the same time, farmers face increasing pressure. Climate shocks threaten harvests. Input costs rise even as farm gate prices stagnate. Many small farmers are caught in cycles of debt, while young people struggle to access land and training. And around the world, 1 in 10 people still go hungry. The paradox is stark. We produce enough to feed everyone, but we are undermining the very ecosystems that make production possible. This book is about breaking that cycle, about reimagining farming as a force for regeneration rather than depletion. It is about sustainable farming, a way of working with nature, not against it, a way of growing food that restores soil health, protects water, strengthens rural economies, and nourishes communities. Sustainable farming is not a single technique or technology. It is a philosophy, a movement, and a practical roadmap. It includes regenerative agriculture, agroecology, permaculture, organic systems, and innovative technologies that reduce harm while increasing resilience. Above all, it is a mindset, one that asks not just, how do we grow more, but how do we grow better? This book will take you on a journey through the many dimensions of sustainable agriculture. We will explore the science of living soils and the importance of biodiversity, water-smart farming and climate adaptation strategies, economic models and financing tools that make sustainability possible for farmers, equity and justice, ensuring all farmers and farm workers share in the benefits, future scenarios, from high-tech innovations to community-led food sovereignty. The goal is not just to inform, but to inspire. Whether you are a farmer seeking new ideas, a policymaker shaping agricultural policy, a consumer wanting to make better choices, or simply someone who cares about the future of our planet, this book is for you. The world is hungry, not only for food but for solutions. It is time to plant the seeds of a new agricultural era, one rooted in stewardship, resilience, and hope. The harvest we reap will depend on what we sow today. Chapter 1. The Need for Sustainable Farming. 1.1 A World in Transition. Agriculture is one of the oldest human activities, yet it remains one of the most critical for our survival. The food we eat, the fibers we wear, and even the fuels we use all trace their roots back to farming systems. However, modern agriculture faces unprecedented pressure. Population growth, climate change, soil degradation, and dwindling freshwater resources threaten the stability of our global food system. According to the United Nations, the global population is projected to reach nearly 10 billion by 2050. Feeding this population will require a 50 to 70% increase in food production, but we cannot simply expand farmland or intensify industrial agriculture without severe environmental consequences. The current system, which has relied heavily on chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and monocropping, has contributed to soil erosion, loss of biodiversity, and greenhouse gas emissions. The world is at a crossroads. Either continue with practices that undermine the very ecosystems we rely on, or shift toward a model of farming that works with nature rather than against it. This is where sustainable farming comes in. 1.2 What is sustainable farming? Sustainable farming is more than just an agricultural technique. It is a philosophy, a framework, and a long-term strategy for producing food in harmony with ecological systems. At its core, sustainable farming seeks to preserve natural resources, soil, water, biodiversity, for future generations. Reduce environmental impact by minimizing chemical inputs, emissions, and waste. Support economic viability, so farmers can make a living without depleting their resources. Enhance social well-being by providing healthy food, fair labor practices, and resilient rural communities. Sustainable farming does not mean abandoning technology or going back to the land in a nostalgic sense. It embraces innovation, precision agriculture, renewable energy, soil microbiome research, to create farming systems that regenerate rather than exhaust. 1.3 Why now? The urgency of sustainable farming has never been greater. Scientists warn that if current agricultural practices continue unchecked, we risk soil collapse. Some experts estimate that we have fewer than 60 harvests left in many regions due to erosion and loss of organic matter. Water scarcity. Agriculture already accounts for 70% of global freshwater withdrawals, and climate change is making rainfall patterns more unpredictable. Pollinator decline. Habitat loss and pesticide overuse have contributed to declining bee and insect populations, threatening crop yields. Greenhouse gas emissions. Agriculture contributes roughly 25% of global emissions, mostly from livestock, fertilizer use, and land clearing. The shift to sustainable farming is not just about saving the environment. It is about securing our food supply and building resilience against economic and ecological shocks. 1.4 Principles of Sustainability in Farming. This book will explore several key principles that define truly sustainable agriculture. Soil health, building organic matter, protecting microbial life, and avoiding practices that deplete fertility. Biodiversity, using crop rotation, intercropping, and agroforestry to create resilient ecosystems. Water stewardship, managing irrigation efficiently and protecting watersheds. Closed-loop systems, recycling nutrients, composting, and reducing waste. Energy efficiency, minimizing fossil fuel dependence and adopting renewable energy sources. Economic and social responsibility, ensuring that farming is profitable, equitable, and supportive of local communities. 1.5 A Vision for the Future. Imagine a world where farms are lush with diverse crops, soils are rich and alive, rivers run clear, and farmers thrive economically. Imagine urban rooftops and vertical farms feeding city populations while rural landscapes regenerate biodiversity. This is not just a utopian dream, it is a possible future if we commit to transforming how we farm today. In the chapters that follow, we will explore practical solutions, real-world case studies, and scientific insights that guide us toward this vision. Sustainable farming is not a single recipe, but a set of adaptive strategies that respond to local conditions, cultures, and challenges. Chapter 2: From Tradition to Transformation, the Evolution of Agriculture. 2.1 The Birth of Agriculture. For most of human history, people lived as hunter-gatherers, moving with the seasons in search of food. Around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, in regions like the Fertile Crescent, the Yangtze River Valley, and Mesoamerica, humans began domesticating plants and animals. This Neolithic revolution marked the beginning of agriculture, a monumental shift that allowed humans to settle in one place, form villages, and eventually develop civilizations. Early agriculture relied on simple tools, animal power, and natural fertility cycles. Farmers planted diverse crops, used compost and manure, and practiced shifting cultivation to let land regenerate. 2.2 Traditional farming systems. Before industrialization, most farming was inherently sustainable by necessity. Key features included crop diversity. Farmers planted mixed crops, polycultures, reducing the risk of total failure. Natural fertility. Organic matter like animal manure returned nutrients to the soil. Human and animal labor. Ox and horses and human hands powered farming. Closed loops. Very little was wasted. Crop residues became fodder, manure fertilized fields, and everything stayed within the farm system. Traditional systems were far from perfect. Yields were low, labor was intense, and famines were common, but they often maintained ecological balance over centuries. 2.3 The Agricultural Revolution. The 18th and 19th centuries brought significant innovations that increased productivity. Crop rotation improvements. The four-field rotation, wheat, turnips, barley, clover, improved soil fertility. Selective breeding. Livestock and crops were bred for better yields. Mechanization. The seed drill, plow innovations, and later steam-powered tractors boosted efficiency. This period laid the groundwork for the industrialization of agriculture, which would accelerate dramatically in the 20th century. 2.4 The Green Revolution. In the mid-20th century, the Green Revolution transformed global agriculture. Scientists like Norman Borlaug developed high-yielding varieties, HYVs, of wheat and rice, combined with synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and irrigation systems. This revolution had undeniable benefits. Increased food production dramatically, averting famine in many regions. Reduced hunger in countries like India and Mexico. Allowed populations to grow without mass starvation. But it also created new challenges. Dependency on chemical inputs, fertilizers, pesticides. Soil degradation from monocropping. Water overuse and salinization of irrigated soils. Loss of agrobiodiversity as farmers abandoned traditional seed varieties. 2.5 Industrial agriculture today. Modern industrial farming is characterized by monocultures, thousands of acres planted with a single crop. Synthetic inputs, heavy use of fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. Mechanization and automation, large-scale tractors, harvesters, and now even drones. Global supply chains, food grown on one continent, processed on another, consumed elsewhere. While this system produces enormous amounts of cheap food, it comes at a high ecological cost, contributing to greenhouse gas emissions, dead zones in oceans from fertilizer runoff, and vulnerability to pests and diseases. 2.6 The rise of the sustainability movement. By the late 20th century, scientists, farmers, and policymakers began to recognize the downsides of industrial farming. Soil erosion, chemical pollution, and declining rural communities sparked interest in alternative approaches. This led to the organic farming movement, which rejected synthetic chemicals. The permaculture and agroecology movements, focusing on ecosystem design. Government programs promoting conservation agriculture and soil health. Today, sustainable farming is no longer a fringe idea. It is central to global discussions about climate resilience, food security, and rural development. 2.7 Lessons from the past. History shows that agriculture is not static. It evolves with technology, culture, and necessity. The next great transformation must focus on restoring balance, producing enough food while regenerating ecosystems, supporting farmers, and adapting to climate change. As we move forward in this book, we will look at practical solutions for making this transition possible, combining traditional wisdom with modern science. Chapter 3: Soil, the living foundation of farming. 3.1 Why soil matters. Soil is not just dirt. It is a complex, living ecosystem that supports nearly all terrestrial life. Healthy soil acts as a natural factory, turning sunlight, water, and organic matter into nutrients that sustain plants. It regulates water flow, filters pollutants, and even stores carbon, making it a key ally in fighting climate change. Yet soil is often treated as an inert medium, simply a place to anchor plant roots. The result? Degraded land, declining fertility, and farms increasingly dependent on synthetic inputs to produce the same yields. 3.2 The living soil. A single teaspoon of healthy soil can contain more microorganisms than there are humans on Earth. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, and earthworms, all working together in a symbiotic web. This soil food web cycles nutrients. Microbes break down organic matter into plant-available forms. Build structure. Fungal hyphae and worm activity create soil aggregates that improve aeration. Defends plants. Certain microbes suppress plant diseases and boost immunity. Stores carbon. Organic matter is sequestered, helping mitigate climate change. A farm that nurtures this living community can reduce its need for synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. 3.3 The crisis of soil degradation. Modern agriculture has taken a toll on soils worldwide. Erosion. Plowing and leaving soil bare leads to topsoil loss, 24 billion tons per year globally. Organic matter loss. Overuse of chemical fertilizers and lack of crop residues deplete soil carbon. Compaction. Heavy machinery compresses soil, reducing root growth and water infiltration. Salinization. Over-irrigation in arid regions leaves behind salts that poison crops. Some scientists warn that at current rates, we could lose most of our productive topsoil within 50 to 60 years. Restoring soil health is therefore a central mission of sustainable farming. 3.4 Principles of soil stewardship. To rebuild and maintain soil health, farmers focus on 4 key principles. Keep soil covered. Cover crops, mulch, and crop residues protect soil from erosion and temperature extremes. Minimize disturbance. Reducing or eliminating tillage helps preserve soil structure and microbial life. Maintain living roots. Growing plants year-round feed soil microbes with root exudates. Diversity is key. Crop rotations, intercropping, and integrating livestock foster a diverse soil ecosystem. These principles are the foundation of regenerative agriculture, a system that not only sustains but actively improves soil over time. 3.5 Building organic matter. Organic matter is the engine of soil fertility. Strategies to increase it include composting, turning food scraps, manure, and crop residues into rich humus. Green manures, planting legumes or other cover crops and plowing them under to add nitrogen. Reduce chemical dependence. Excessive synthetic fertilizers can disrupt soil microbiota. Using them strategically preserves natural processes. Higher organic matter means better water retention, improved nutrient availability, and greater resilience to drought. 3.6 Soil testing and monitoring. You cannot manage what you do not measure. Sustainable farmers regularly test their soils for pH levels to ensure nutrient availability, macronutrients and micronutrients to guide fertilizer use, organic matter content as an indicator of soil vitality, biological activity using simple tests like counting earthworms or measuring carbon dioxide respiration. This data helps farmers apply only what is needed, reducing costs and environmental impact. 3.7 Case Studies in Soil Restoration. Gabe Brown's Ranch, North Dakota, USA. By practicing no-till farming, planting cover crops, and integrating livestock, Brown transformed degraded soils into thriving ecosystems, increasing soil organic matter from less than 2% to over 6% in 2 decades. Loess Plateau, China. A massive restoration project converted desertified hills into fertile farmland by planting vegetation, controlling erosion, and banning overgrazing, lifting millions out of poverty. These examples prove that degraded soils can be brought back to life, often faster than expected. 3.8 The Soil-Climate Connection. Healthy soils act as carbon sinks, storing atmospheric carbon dioxide as stable organic matter. Some researchers believe that global implementation of regenerative practices could sequester enough carbon to offset a significant portion of human emissions, a win-win for food security and climate stability. 3.9 Moving forward. Soil health is not just a technical issue but a mindset shift, from extraction to regeneration. Farmers who prioritize soil become stewards of the land, creating systems that produce more with fewer inputs over time. In the next chapter, we will explore water management, another critical pillar of sustainable farming, and learn how farmers can grow abundant crops without depleting or polluting this precious resource. Chapter 4. Water, the lifeblood of farming. 4.1 The central role of water. Without water, there is no farming. Water is essential for photosynthesis, nutrient transport, and plant growth. Globally, agriculture accounts for about 70% of all freshwater withdrawals, making it the largest user of water on the planet. Yet water is also a limiting factor. Droughts, floods, and shifting rainfall patterns are intensifying due to climate change, threatening food security. Sustainable farming must therefore balance productivity with conservation, ensuring that every drop of water counts. 4.2 The Global Water Crisis. Farmers face multiple water-related challenges. Scarcity. Rivers like the Colorado, Indus, and Yellow River are often overdrawn, running dry before reaching the sea. Groundwater depletion. Aquifers such as the Ogallala, USA, are being pumped faster than they can recharge. Pollution. Runoff of fertilizers and pesticides contaminates rivers and groundwater, creating dead zones downstream. Inefficient irrigation. In some regions, more than half of irrigation water is lost to evaporation or seepage before reaching crops. If left unchecked, these problems could severely limit global food production. 4.3 Principles of Water Stewardship. Sustainable farming approaches water management with 3 guiding principles. Efficiency. Use water in the right amount at the right time with minimal losses. Protection. Safeguard water quality by reducing chemical runoff and erosion. Regeneration. Enhance the natural water cycle by building soil that retains moisture and replenishes aquifers. 4.4 Soil-water connection. Healthy soil is a natural water reservoir. Increasing soil organic matter by just 1% can enable it to hold 20,000 more gallons of water per acre. This makes farms more drought-resistant and reduces the need for irrigation. Practices like no-till farming, cover cropping, and agroforestry help capture rainfall where it falls, allowing it to infiltrate instead of running off. 4.5 Irrigation innovations. Modern irrigation systems can drastically reduce water waste. Key technologies include drip irrigation. Delivers water directly to plant roots through emitters, reducing evaporation losses. Subsurface drip systems, even more efficient, burying lines below the surface to minimize surface evaporation. Soil moisture sensors. Help farmers irrigate only when needed, avoiding overwatering. Automated scheduling. Using weather data and sensors to optimize timing. In contrast, traditional flood irrigation often wastes 30 to 50% of applied water. 4.6 Rainwater harvesting. Capturing and storing rainwater, provides a low-cost, renewable source of irrigation. Farmers use farm ponds, collect runoff during rainy seasons for later use. Contour bunds and swales, slow water movement across fields, increasing infiltration. Roof catchments, direct rainwater into storage tanks for greenhouse irrigation. These methods are particularly valuable in arid and semi-arid regions. 4.7 Protecting water quality. Farms can become sources of water pollution if not managed carefully. To reduce contamination, buffer strips, planting grasses or trees along waterways filters runoff. Integrated pest management (IPM) reduces pesticide use, protecting aquatic ecosystems. Precision fertilization, matching nutrients to crop needs, minimizes leaching into groundwater. Healthy riparian zones also provide habitat for wildlife and stabilize stream banks. 4.8 Case studies. Israel's water-smart agriculture. Israel leads the world in water-efficient farming, using drip irrigation on 75% of its irrigated land, recycling over 80% of wastewater for agriculture. Water Users Associations in India. Community-managed irrigation systems distribute water equitably, preventing overuse and reducing conflicts. Regenerative ranching in Australia. Restoring native grasses improve rainfall infiltration, replenish local water tables, and reduce drought impacts. These examples show that water challenges can be turned into opportunities for resilience and innovation. 4.9 The future of water in farming. Climate change will make water management increasingly complex. Future solutions may include desalination for agriculture, turning seawater into irrigation water where freshwater is scarce. Water trading and policy reform, encouraging responsible use through market mechanisms. AI-driven irrigation, using real-time satellite and soil data to automate water decisions. But technology alone is not enough. Farmers must integrate ecological thinking, viewing water not just as a commodity, but as a shared resource. 4.10 Transitioning to a water-resilient farm. Building water resilience is a journey. Farmers can start by assessing their water use and losses, improving soil health to capture more rainfall, upgrading irrigation systems to reduce waste, creating buffer zones and wetlands to protect water quality. The result is not only better yields, but also a farm that can withstand droughts, floods, and economic shocks. Chapter 5 Biodiversity, Farming with Nature. 5.1 The Power of Biodiversity. Biodiversity, the variety of life on Earth, is not just a conservationist's concern, it is a farmer's best ally. Diverse ecosystems provide services that no machine or chemical can fully replace: pollination, pest control, nutrient cycling, and water regulation. Sustainable farming embraces this diversity rather than fighting it, creating systems where crops, livestock, trees, insects, and microbes coexist in a way that boosts productivity and reduces risk. 5.2 The Hidden Costs of Monoculture. Modern industrial agriculture often relies on monocultures, planting the same crop over hundreds or thousands of acres. While efficient in the short term, monocultures have several drawbacks. Pest outbreaks. Lack of diversity allows pests to spread rapidly. Disease vulnerability. A single pathogen can devastate entire fields. Soil depletion. Repeatedly growing the same crop extracts specific nutrients, degrading fertility. Biodiversity loss. Eliminates habitat for pollinators, birds, and beneficial insects. This biological simplification increases dependence on synthetic inputs, pesticides, fungicides, and fertilizers, creating a cycle that is expensive and ecologically damaging. 5.3 Ecosystem services on the farm. Healthy ecosystems deliver a suite of benefits, often referred to as ecosystem services. Pollination. Bees, butterflies, birds, and bats help fertilize crops like fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Pest control. Ladybugs, lacewing spiders, and predatory wasps keep pests in check. Nutrient cycling. Soil organisms decompose organic matter, releasing nutrients for plants. Water regulation. Wetlands and vegetative buffers slow runoff, recharge groundwater, and prevent flooding. Climate regulation. Trees and hedgerows store carbon and cool the landscape. Farms that foster these services can lower costs, improve yields, and become more climate resilient. 5.4 Strategies to enhance on-farm biodiversity. Sustainable farmers actively design their landscapes to support diversity. Key strategies include crop diversification, crop rotation. Alternating crops in a sequence breaks pest cycles and improves soil fertility. Intercropping. Planting 2 or more crops together, e.g. corn and beans, can boost yields and deter pests. Relay planting. Overlapping planting dates to keep living roots in the soil year-round. Habitat creation. Hedgerows and field borders. Planting native shrubs and wildflowers provides habitat for pollinators. Cover crops. Attract beneficial insects and protect soil between main cash crops. Wildlife corridors. Linking patches of habitat allows species to move across the landscape. Agroforestry. Integrating trees into farming systems offers multiple benefits. Shade for livestock and crops. Timber, fruit or nut production as additional income streams. Deep roots that stabilize soil and recycle nutrients from deeper layers. Integrated livestock. Managed grazing systems return manure to the soil, stimulate plant growth, and mimic natural herd movements that maintain grassland health. 5.5 The role of pollinators. Pollinators are vital for over 75% of global food crops. Their decline due to habitat loss, pesticides, and disease is a major threat to food security. Farmers can support pollinators by reducing pesticide use, especially during flowering periods. Planting flowering strips that bloom throughout the growing season. Maintaining nesting habitats like bare soil patches, hedgerows, and deadwood. In many cases, farms that invest in pollinator health see significant yield gains, especially in fruit and nut production. 5.6 Beneficial insects and natural pest control. Not all insects are pests, many are allies. By encouraging natural predators, farmers can reduce pesticide use. Examples include ladybugs control aphids. Parasitic wasps target caterpillars and fly larvae. Ground beetles feed on slugs and cutworms. Providing habitat, such as insect hotels or flowering plants, boosts these populations naturally. 5.7 Biodiversity, beyond the farm. Sustainable farming recognizes that farms are part of larger landscapes. Regional collaboration is often key. Watershed management, coordinated efforts keep streams healthy. Community seed banks preserve heirloom varieties and genetic diversity. Landscape scale conservation, connecting habitats ensures pollinators and predators thrive across farms. This big picture approach helps stabilize ecosystems and reduce risks from climate extremes. 5.8 Case studies. Spanish Dehesa system, a silvopastoral system combining oak trees, pasture, and livestock, supporting biodiversity while producing high-quality ham and wine. Great Plains Prairie Strips, USA, converting just 10% of farmland into prairie strips reduced runoff by 95%, increased pollinator diversity, and boosted bird populations. Kenya's push-pull farming, intercropping maize with desmodium and napier grass naturally controls pests and improves soil fertility. These examples show that diversity is not just good for nature, it can make farms more productive and profitable. 5.9 The economic case for biodiversity. Some farmers fear that dedicating land to non-crop habitat will reduce profits. In reality, studies often show the opposite. Reduce pesticide costs due to natural pest control. Increased pollination leading to higher yields. Long-term soil fertility improvements that boost productivity. Biodiversity is not just an environmental investment, it is an economic strategy. 5.10 Building a resilient agroecosystem. By working with nature, farmers create systems that are self-regulating, fewer pest outbreaks and lower input needs. Resilient, better able to withstand droughts, floods, and disease. Regenerative, improving soil, water, and habitat year after year. Chapter 6, Nutrient Cycling, Closing the Loop. 6.1 The Nutrient Challenge. Plants require a steady supply of nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and micronutrients, to grow and produce food. Modern agriculture largely relies on synthetic fertilizers to supply these nutrients quickly and in large quantities. While effective for boosting yields, this dependence creates several problems. Nutrient pollution. Excess fertilizer washes into rivers and lakes, causing algal blooms and dead zones. Soil imbalance. Overuse of chemical inputs can disrupt natural soil biology. High costs. Fertilizer prices are volatile and tied to fossil fuel markets. Finite resources. Phosphorus, a key ingredient, is a non-renewable resource mined from limited reserves. Sustainable farming seeks to reduce these vulnerabilities by closing the nutrient loop, recycling waste back into the soil, and relying on biological processes to maintain fertility. 6.2 Nature's Nutrient Cycle. In natural ecosystems, nothing is wasted. Fallen leaves decompose, animal manure returns nutrients to the soil, and microorganisms recycle organic matter into plant-available forms. This closed-loop cycle is highly efficient and self-sustaining. Sustainable farming aims to mimic this system by keeping nutrients circulating within the farm, rather than importing them from external sources or losing them to runoff. 6.3 Composting, turning waste into gold. Composting is the cornerstone of nutrient recycling. By decomposing organic waste, crop residues, manure, food scraps, farmers create a nutrient-rich soil amendment known as humus. Benefits of compost. Improves soil structure and water retention. Provides slow-release nutrients, reducing leaching. Stimulates beneficial microbes that protect plant roots. Diverts organic waste from landfills, reducing methane emissions. Farmers can adopt windrow composting, long piles turned periodically, or static pile systems with forced aeration to accelerate the process. 6.4 Manure Management. Animal manure is an excellent fertilizer when handled correctly, but a major pollutant if mismanaged. Key strategies include: composting manure reduces pathogens and odor while stabilizing nutrients. Anaerobic digesters convert manure into biogas for energy and nutrient-rich slurry for fields. Timing applications. Applying manure when crops can absorb nutrients reduces runoff. Precision spreading. Using calibrated equipment ensures even distribution and prevents over-application. Integrating livestock with cropping systems creates a synergistic loop. Crops feed animals and animals feed the soil. 6.5 Cover crops as fertilizer factories. Cover crops, especially legumes like clover, vetch, and peas, can fix atmospheric nitrogen with the help of symbiotic bacteria in their root nodules. This natural fertilization reduces dependence on synthetic nitrogen fertilizers. Adds organic matter to the soil when cover crops are incorporated. Prevents nutrient leaching during the off-season. Some systems use green manures, cover crops grown specifically to be tilled into the soil at peak biomass, providing a nutrient boost for the next crop. 6.6 Biofertilizers and soil biology. Emerging technologies are enhancing natural nutrient cycling. Biofertilizers, products containing live microorganisms, e.g., mycorrhizal fungi, nitrogen-fixing bacteria that colonize roots and improve nutrient uptake. Vermicompost, using worms to decompose organic matter into highly bioavailable castings. Fermented plant extracts. Traditional methods like Korean natural farming create nutrient-rich teas from local plants and microbes. These biological solutions improve soil health while reducing synthetic input costs. 6.7 Reducing nutrient loss. Even in sustainable systems, nutrient loss can occur. Farmers minimize it by maintaining year-round ground cover to prevent leaching, planting deep-rooted crops that scavenge leftover nutrients from subsoil layers, using buffer strips near waterways to trap sediment and nutrients before they escape, Efficient nutrient management means more food per unit of fertilizer and less pollution downstream. 6.8 Case Studies. Nutrient cycling on a permaculture farm, Australia. Kitchen scraps feed chickens, chickens produce manure. Manure fertilizes gardens, gardens produce more food, a nearly closed nutrient cycle. Dairy farm digesters, Germany. Thousands of farms use anaerobic digesters to turn manure into electricity, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and providing a steady nutrient supply for fields. Zero-budget natural farming, India. Farmers use fermented cow dung and urine as inputs, eliminating external fertilizer costs entirely. These examples show that closing the loop can be practical, profitable, and scalable. 6.9 The economics of closed-loop systems. While transitioning to closed-loop nutrient management requires upfront investment in composting infrastructure, digesters, or cover crop seed, farmers often save money in the long run by buying less synthetic fertilizer, improving soil fertility naturally, leading to higher yields, diversifying income streams, e.g., selling compost or biogas. In an era of rising input costs, nutrient self-sufficiency becomes a competitive advantage. 6.10 Toward nutrient sovereignty. Nutrient cycling is not just about sustainability, it is about sovereignty. Farms that rely less on external inputs are more resilient to price shocks, supply chain disruptions, and environmental regulations. Chapter 7. Energy, powering the farm of the future. 7.1 The energy footprint of agriculture. Modern farming is energy-intensive. Tractors, irrigation pumps, refrigeration systems, and fertilizer production all rely heavily on fossil fuels. According to the FAO, agriculture and food systems account for over 30% of global energy consumption when including processing, transportation, and distribution. This reliance on fossil fuels has several downsides. Price volatility. Farmers' costs rise when oil prices spike. Climate impact. Energy use contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions. Resource limits. Fossil fuels are finite and geopolitically sensitive. A transition to energy efficiency and renewable sources is essential for a sustainable and resilient farming system. 7.2 The energy yield paradox. Over the last century, agricultural yields have risen dramatically, but so has energy input per calorie produced. Industrial farming depends on mechanization, chemical synthesis, and long supply chains that consume vast amounts of fuel and electricity. Sustainable farming aims to reverse this trend, producing more with less energy per unit of food through smarter systems, closed loops, and renewables. 7.3 Reducing energy demand. The first step toward energy sustainability is efficiency. Key strategies include efficient machinery, upgrading to modern fuel-efficient tractors and equipment, optimized field operations, reducing unnecessary passes across fields through precision planning and no-till systems, energy-efficient buildings, insulating barns and greenhouses to lower heating and cooling costs, LED lighting, cutting energy use in indoor farming and storage facilities. Even small changes in operations can yield significant savings over time. 7.4 Renewable energy on the farm. Renewables allow farmers to produce their own clean power, reducing costs and emissions. Popular options include solar power. Panels can power irrigation pumps, electric fences, or even entire farmhouses and barns. Wind turbines, suitable for windy areas, often combined with battery storage for reliability. Biogas. Anaerobic digesters convert manure and food waste into methane for cooking, heating, or electricity. Microhydro. Small-scale hydroelectric systems can generate power from flowing water on farms. These systems often pay for themselves within a few years through energy savings and incentives. 7.5 Electrification of farm equipment. Electric tractors and machinery are emerging as viable alternatives to diesel-powered equipment. Benefits include lower operating costs. Electricity is cheaper and more stable in price. Reduced emissions. Zero exhaust emissions improve local air quality. Quieter operation. Beneficial for livestock welfare and farm workers. As battery technology improves, we may see entire fleets of electric tractors and autonomous field robots becoming standard. 7.6 Smart energy management. Digital technology can further optimize energy use. IoT sensors monitor equipment performance and detect inefficiencies. Smart irrigation controllers reduce pumping energy by watering only when necessary. Energy monitoring software tracks consumption patterns and identifies savings opportunities. Data-driven energy management ensures resources are used where they create the most value. 7.7 Integrating energy into the farm ecosystem. Closed-loop farms integrate energy production with nutrient cycling and water management. Solar panels over irrigation canals reduce evaporation and generate power. Digesters not only produce energy, but also return nutrient-rich slurry to fields. Agrivoltaics, solar panels combined with crops provide shade, reduce water needs, and create additional income. This integration turns farms into net producers of energy, not just consumers. 7.8 Case studies. Solar-powered dairy farm, India. Solar pumps replace diesel engines, cutting costs by 60% and reducing emissions. Biogas villages, Germany. Communities pool manure and crop residues to generate electricity, heat homes, and return digestate to fields. Agrivoltaic vineyards, France. Solar panels installed above grapevines protect against heat stress while generating renewable power. These examples prove that energy sustainability can be profitable and practical. 7.9 The climate connection. Energy efficiency and renewable energy adoption help reduce agriculture's carbon footprint. Lower emissions mean greater resilience to climate regulations and carbon pricing. Improved farm reputation with consumers who value sustainability. Contribution to global climate goals, aligning farms with future food system demands. 7.10 A vision for energy-independent farms. Imagine a farm that runs entirely on renewable energy, powers its own electric tractors, and sells surplus electricity back to the grid. This is not science fiction. Pilot projects around the world are already making it a reality. Energy independence reduces costs, shields farms from fuel price shocks, and transforms them into contributors to the green energy transition. Chapter 8 Farm Economics, Making Sustainability Profitable. 8.1 The Financial Reality of Farming. Sustainability is not just about ecology, it's also about economics. A farm that restores soil, saves water, and produces healthy food but cannot stay financially viable will not last long enough to have an impact. Globally, many farmers face slim profit margins, volatile markets, and rising costs for inputs like fuel and fertilizer. To thrive, sustainable farms must develop resilient business models that reward regeneration and provide steady income. 8.2 The True Cost of Cheap Food. Modern agriculture has delivered abundant, inexpensive food, but at a hidden cost. Soil degradation and water pollution are externalized costs borne by society. Farmer debt increases as they rely on expensive machinery and chemicals. Rural decline results when small farms cannot compete with industrial-scale operations. Sustainable farming aims to internalize these costs, building systems that account for environmental and social impact, not just yield per acre. 8.3 Key Principles of Economic Sustainability. A financially resilient farm typically diversifies income streams, multiple products, crops, livestock, value-added goods reduce risk. Reduces input dependency, saving money by recycling nutrients, using on-farm resources, and relying on biological processes. Captures more value, selling directly to consumers or processing products to earn higher margins. Plans for risk, using insurance savings and cooperative models to weather bad seasons. These principles shift the farm's focus from maximizing production at all costs to optimizing profitability and stability. 8.4 Direct-to-consumer sales. One of the most powerful strategies for sustainable farms is cutting out middlemen. Farmers' markets allow farmers to sell at retail prices and build relationships with customers. Community-supported agriculture (CSA). Consumers prepay for a share of the farm's harvest, providing upfront capital and guaranteed sales. Online platforms. Digital marketplaces enable farms to reach customers beyond their local area. Direct marketing not only improves profitability, but also educates consumers about where their food comes from. 8.5 Value-added products. Processing raw farm products into higher-value goods can significantly boost revenue. Milk right-pointing arrow cheese, yogurt, butter. Fruits right-pointing arrow jams, juices, dried snacks. Vegetables right-pointing arrow pickles, sauces, fermented products. Value-added products also allow farmers to extend shelf life, reduce waste, and differentiate themselves in the market. 8.6 Certification and premium markets. Many sustainable farms pursue certifications that command premium prices. Organic certification signals chemical-free production. Fair trade or regenerative labels appeal to ethically minded consumers. Carbon-neutral branding attracts climate-conscious buyers. Certification involves costs and paperwork, but it can open doors to high-value retail and export markets. 8.7 Cooperative and collaborative models. Small and mid-sized farms can compete by working together. Equipment sharing cooperatives reduce capital costs. Marketing cooperatives pool products to access larger buyers. Knowledge sharing networks spread innovation and reduce the cost of trial and error learning. Collaboration helps farms scale benefits while keeping ownership and decision-making local. 8.8 Risk management in sustainable farming. Farming is inherently risky due to weather, pests, and market fluctuations. Sustainable farms mitigate risk through diversity. Multiple crops and livestock spread risk across enterprises. Resilient practices. Healthy soils and water-efficient systems buffer against droughts and floods. Insurance. Government or private crop insurance programs protect against catastrophic losses. Long-term contracts. Partnering with buyers who commit to purchasing at set prices. These tools help stabilize income year after year. 8.9 Case studies. Polyface Farm, USA. Joel Salatin's farm stacks enterprises, cattle, poultry, pigs, forestry on the same land, creating multiple income streams and regenerating soil. Zingerman's Cornman Farms, USA. Combines farm-to-table dining, events, and education to diversify revenue. La Via Campesina, Global. A grassroots movement of small farmers using cooperative structures to gain bargaining power and defend local food sovereignty. These models show that sustainability can be both profitable and scalable. 8.10 The role of policy and incentives. Government policies can make or break farm economics. Subsidies often favor large-scale monocultures and commodity crops. A shift toward policies that reward soil building, carbon sequestration, and biodiversity protection would create a more level playing field for sustainable farms. Examples include payments for ecosystem services, e.g., cover cropping, pollinator habitat. Grants or low-interest loans for renewable energy installations. Tax incentives for land stewardship and soil conservation practices. Public investment in regenerative agriculture is ultimately an investment in national food security and environmental resilience. Chapter 9. People and Community, the Social Side of Sustainability. 9.1 The Human Element of Farming. Sustainable agriculture is not just about healthy soils and profitable farms, it's also about people. Farmers, farm workers, rural communities, and consumers are all part of the food system. A truly sustainable farm must nurture human well-being, not just crop yields. The social pillar of sustainability asks, are workers treated fairly and paid living wages? Are rural communities thriving or declining? Are farms safe, inclusive, and supportive places for families and future generations? Without addressing these questions, sustainability remains incomplete. 9.2 Labor in agriculture. Farm labor is often grueling, low-paid, and precarious. In many parts of the world, migrant workers make up a large portion of the agricultural workforce, facing low wages, often below living standards, unsafe conditions, exposure to pesticides, heat stress, and heavy machinery accidents, job insecurity. Seasonal work leads to unstable income, lack of rights, limited access to healthcare, housing, or labor protections. Sustainable farming seeks to correct these injustices by committing to fair labor practices, paying fair wages, providing safe, healthy working environments, offering training, education, and long-term employment opportunities. 9.3 Farmer well-being. Farmers themselves face significant social and psychological pressures. Financial stress, volatile markets, and debt burdens. Isolation. Rural living can lead to loneliness and limited access to mental health resources. Generational strain. Difficulty transferring farms to the next generation. Farmer mental health is a growing concern, with high rates of depression and suicide in farming communities worldwide. Support networks, community programs, and access to counseling are crucial to keeping farming families resilient. 9.4 Community vitality. Farms are the backbone of rural economies. When farms thrive, rural areas benefit from local employment, jobs in production, processing, and distribution. Food security, access to fresh, healthy, locally grown food. Cultural preservation, traditional knowledge and practices are passed down. When farms fail, rural communities often decline. Schools close, businesses shut down, and populations dwindle. Sustainable farming revitalizes these areas by keeping wealth circulating locally. 9.5 Food justice and equity. Access to nutritious food is a basic human right, yet many communities, both rural and urban, face food deserts where healthy food is scarce or expensive. Sustainable farming can be part of the solution by supplying fresh food to local markets, partnering with schools, hospitals, and food banks, creating affordable CSA shares for low-income families. Food justice also includes ensuring that marginalized groups, including indigenous peoples, women, and minority farmers, have equal access to land, resources, and decision-making power. 9.6 Education and knowledge transfer. Building the next generation of farmers is vital. Key strategies include apprenticeships and training programs, hands-on education for young farmers, school gardens, teaching children about where food comes from, farmer field schools, peer-to-peer learning that empowers local innovation. Knowledge sharing ensures that sustainable practices are not just short-term projects, but enduring cultural shifts. 9.7 Cultural importance of farming. Farming is not only an economic activity, but also a cultural one. Festivals, traditions, and cuisines often center around harvest seasons and local foods. Maintaining small farms preserves traditional crop varieties, important for genetic diversity and culinary heritage. Artisan skills, cheese-making, seed-saving, and traditional crafts. Sense of place, landscapes shaped by generations of stewardship. A farm that sustains culture helps sustain identity and meaning in rural life. 9.8 Social innovations in farming. Sustainable farming can also be a platform for social innovation. Worker-owned cooperatives, giving workers a stake in decision-making and profit-sharing. Urban farms, turning vacant lots into productive green spaces and community hubs. Therapeutic farming, farms serving as spaces for rehabilitation, education, and mental health support. These models broaden the role of farming beyond production to community building. 9.9 Case studies. Fair Food Program, USA, partnership between tomato growers and farm worker advocates improving wages and working conditions. La Via Campesina, Global, movement empowering smallholder farmers to defend land rights and food sovereignty. Korean urban-rural exchange programs. Urban residents spend time on farms, strengthening rural-urban relationships and understanding. Each example shows how social sustainability strengthens farms and communities alike. 9.10 The triple bottom line. True sustainability balances people, planet, and profit. Ecological practices and economic resilience are not enough if human dignity is neglected. Socially sustainable farms are fair to workers and supportive of families, connected to their communities, inclusive and empowering for future generations. Chapter 10. Technology, Tools for a Regenerative Future. 10.1 The Role of Technology in Sustainability. Technology has transformed agriculture over the past century, driving record yields and feeding billions. But it has also contributed to soil degradation, biodiversity loss, and rising emissions when misused. The challenge for the 21st century is to use technology not to extract more at any cost, but to optimize and regenerate. Sustainable agriculture is not anti-technology. It is about using the right tools at the right scale to enhance natural processes rather than replace them. 10.2 Precision agriculture. Precision agriculture uses data to apply inputs, water, fertilizer, pesticides, exactly where and when they are needed. Key tools include GPS-guided machinery, reduces overlaps in planting, tilling, and spraying, saving fuel and inputs. Variable rate technology, VRT, adjusts seed density, fertilizer, or irrigation based on real-time soil data. Remote sensing, satellite and drone imagery detect crop stress, nutrient deficiencies, or pest outbreaks early. The result: higher yields, lower costs, and fewer environmental impacts. 10.3 Drones and robotics. Drones and autonomous robots are becoming common on progressive farms. Drones monitor fields, deliver biological pest control agents, and map plant health with multispectral cameras. Weeding robots use AI to distinguish crops from weeds, reducing herbicide use. Harvesting robots pick delicate crops like strawberries and tomatoes with precision. These innovations help reduce labor bottlenecks and input waste while improving efficiency. 10.4 Artificial intelligence and big data. AI and machine learning allow farms to process massive datasets and make better decisions. Predictive analytics forecast weather, yield, and pest pressures with increasing accuracy. Decision support systems recommend optimal planting times, irrigation schedules, and crop rotations. Supply chain optimization match production to demand, reducing food waste. When used responsibly, AI can turn farms into adaptive systems that learn and improve season after season. 10.5 Sensors and the Internet of Things, IoT. Smart sensors are revolutionizing farm management. Soil moisture sensors trigger irrigation only when water is needed, saving energy and water. Nutrient sensors monitor soil chemistry in real time to prevent over-fertilization. Livestock wearables track animal health, activity, and feed intake to detect illness early. This connected ecosystem enables farmers to manage their land and animals with unprecedented precision. 10.6 Controlled Environment Agriculture, CEA. C includes greenhouses, vertical farms, and hydroponic systems that create ideal growing conditions year-round. Benefits include high efficiency, up to 90% less water use compared to traditional farming. Local production, reduces food miles by growing near urban centers. Pesticide-free, closed systems often eliminate the need for chemical controls. While energy use can be high, integrating renewable power and LED lighting is making C increasingly sustainable. 10.7 Biotechnology and sustainable inputs. Biotechnology, when used thoughtfully, can support sustainability. Biological pest control, beneficial microbes and insects replacing chemical pesticides. Biofertilizers, microbial inoculants that improve nutrient availability and soil health. Climate-resilient crops, breeding and gene editing techniques creating drought-tolerant pest-resistant varieties. The goal is to enhance natural resilience, not create dependency on proprietary inputs. 10.8 Digital marketplaces and transparency. Technology is also transforming how food is sold and traced. Blockchain systems track produce from farm to table, boosting consumer trust. Direct-to-consumer apps help small farms sell directly to households, restaurants, and institutions. Carbon tracking platforms quantify regenerative practices and reward farmers for ecosystem services. This digital layer connects consumers and farmers more closely than ever before. 10.9 Risks and ethical considerations. While technology offers promise, it also raises concerns. Equity. Will small farmers have access to expensive tools, or will technology widen the gap? Data privacy. Who owns farm data, the farmer, the tech company, or the buyer? Dependence. Over-reliance on tech can erode traditional knowledge and resilience if systems fail. Sustainable adoption requires thoughtful governance and farmer empowerment. 10.10 The human-tech balance. Technology should augment human intelligence, not replace it. The best systems combine traditional wisdom, generations of farmer experience about local soils, weather, and crops. Scientific knowledge, research on soil biology, agroecology, and climate adaptation. Digital tools, data, and automation to make farming more efficient and precise. When these three come together, farms become adaptive ecosystems that are productive, profitable, and regenerative. Chapter 11. Policy. Building a supportive framework for sustainable farming. 11.1 Why policy matters. Individual farmers can do a lot, but they cannot transform the food system alone. The rules, incentives, and infrastructure that shape farming decisions are largely determined by policy. Subsidies, land use laws, trade agreements, and research funding all influence whether sustainable farming thrives or struggles. Without supportive governance, even the most committed farmers may find themselves pushed toward short-term, unsustainable practices simply to stay afloat. 11.2 The power of subsidies. Many countries spend billions subsidizing agriculture. Unfortunately, these subsidies often favor monocultures like corn, soy, and wheat over diverse cropping systems, encourage overproduction and waste, reward yield at the expense of soil health and biodiversity. Shifting subsidies to reward ecosystem services such as carbon sequestration, water conservation, and pollinator habitat would accelerate adoption of regenerative practices. Examples of positive policy shifts include EU's Common Agricultural Policy reforms, which now tie payments to environmental outcomes. USDA's EQIP program, which funds cover cropping, rotational grazing, and other conservation efforts. 11.3 Land tenure and access. Secure land rights are critical for sustainability. Farmers are more likely to invest in long-term soil health if they own or have stable access to their land. Key policy goals include protecting smallholders, preventing land grabs and speculative displacement. Land access programs, helping young and beginning farmers acquire land. Agroecological zoning, designating areas for sustainable farming, agroforestry, and biodiversity protection. Land policy is especially crucial in the Global South, where millions of smallholders feed entire nations but lack formal land titles. 11.4 Research, education, and extension. Public investment in agricultural research has historically driven innovation. Today, funding should prioritize agroecology and soil science, understanding how to regenerate ecosystems. Low input systems, developing methods that reduce chemical dependency. Open source technology, making precision farming tools accessible to small farmers. Extension services, government or university-led programs that bring research to the field, are vital for spreading sustainable practices quickly and effectively. 11.5 Infrastructure and market access. Policies can support sustainable farming by improving local processing facilities for meat, dairy, grains, and vegetables, enabling farmers to sell value-added products. Transportation networks, connecting rural areas to markets efficiently. Cold storage and food hubs, reducing post-harvest losses, especially in developing regions. Infrastructure investment ensures that sustainable production translates into food security and farm profitability. 11.6 Trade and global cooperation. International trade policy affects farming worldwide. Export-oriented agriculture can lead to soil exhaustion and monocultures, while import dependency can undermine local food systems. Key principles for fair and sustainable trade. Support food sovereignty, allowing nations to prioritize local production for local consumption. Reduce tariffs on sustainable inputs, like cover crop seeds, renewable energy tech. Encourage harmonized sustainability standards to reward regenerative farmers globally. Global cooperation is also essential to address transboundary issues like climate change, water scarcity, and biodiversity loss. 11.7 Climate policy and carbon markets. Agriculture is both a source and a sink of greenhouse gases. Policies can harness this dual role by carbon credits for farmers, paying them for practices that sequester carbon in soils. Methane reduction incentives, supporting biogas systems and better manure management. Climate resilience funding, helping farmers adapt to droughts, floods, and extreme weather. Done right, climate policy can turn farms into climate solutions rather than liabilities. 11.8 Food policy and public procurement. Governments are major food buyers for schools, hospitals, and public programs. By prioritizing local and sustainably grown food, they can create steady demand for regenerative farms, improve public health through better diets, shorten supply chains, reducing transport emissions. Examples include farm-to-school programs and public canteen procurement laws in countries like Brazil and Denmark. 11.9 The role of global institutions. International organizations play a role in setting the agenda. FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, promotes agroecology and global food security. UNFCCC, Climate Change Convention, recognizes soil carbon sequestration in climate strategies. World Bank and development agencies fund rural infrastructure, research, and capacity building. Coordinated global action ensures that sustainability is not just a luxury of wealthy nations, but a worldwide priority. 11.10 Participatory governance. Top-down policies alone are not enough. True sustainability involves farmers and communities in decision-making. Farmer-led councils that shape conservation programs. Citizen assemblies on food and climate policy. Transparent processes that ensure policies reflect local realities. When those most affected are given a voice, policies are more practical and more likely to succeed. Chapter 12 Consumers, driving demand for a sustainable food system. 12.1 The power of the plate. Every meal is a vote for a particular kind of agriculture. Consumers influence what farmers grow, how food is produced, and which business models thrive. When demand shifts toward sustainably produced food, markets follow, and farming practices often transform faster than through policy alone. Understanding consumer behavior and reshaping food culture are therefore critical to scaling sustainable agriculture. 12.2 The disconnect between farmers and eaters. Modern supply chains have distanced most consumers from the source of their food. Many people don't know who grows their food, can't trace it back to a farm or region, are unaware of the environmental and social costs behind low supermarket prices. This disconnect creates a challenge, but also an opportunity, for education and storytelling that re-establish the link between plate and planet. 12.3 The rise of conscious consumers. Globally, there is a growing movement of consumers seeking organic and pesticide-free food for health and environmental reasons. Local and seasonal produce, supporting nearby farms and reducing food miles. Fair trade products, ensuring farmers receive a fair price. Regenerative and carbon-negative foods, rewarding climate-positive farming. This shift is driving major retailers and food companies to adopt sustainability commitments and reconfigure their supply chains. 12.4 Education and awareness. Awareness campaigns and public education can accelerate consumer-driven change. Labeling and certification. Empower shoppers with clear information. Documentaries and books inspire interest in soil health, biodiversity, and food justice. School programs teach children where food comes from and how to make nutritious choices. Informed consumers are more likely to make decisions that support farmers who are doing the right thing. 12.5 Food culture and tradition. Sustainable diets are not just about what we eat, but how we value food. Cooking at home reduces waste, saves money, and fosters appreciation for ingredients. Seasonal eating aligns consumption with natural cycles, reducing energy use for storage and transport. Respect for food, cultural traditions that celebrate harvests and discourage waste can inspire modern solutions. Reviving food culture helps shift attitudes from cheap convenience toward mindful nourishment. 12.6 Plant-forward diets. Research suggests that reducing overconsumption of industrially produced meat and emphasizing plant-based foods can lower greenhouse gas emissions, reduce pressure on land and water resources, improve public health outcomes. This does not necessarily mean eliminating animal products, but supporting pasture-raised, rotationally grazed, and ethically produced meat, while diversifying diets with legumes, grains, fruits, and vegetables. 12.7 Reducing food waste. Globally, nearly one-third of food produced is lost or wasted. Consumers can help by planning meals and shopping mindfully, storing food properly to extend freshness, embracing ugly produce that might otherwise be discarded, composting leftovers to return nutrients to the soil. Reducing waste is one of the fastest ways to improve the sustainability of the food system. 12.8 Social media and influencers. In the digital age, food trends spread quickly. Influencers, chefs, and activists can popularize regenerative brands and farmers, normalize sustainable diets and cooking habits, mobilize campaigns to hold corporations accountable. Social media can amplify positive change, though it must be balanced against the risk of greenwashing and superficial trends. 12.9 Equity and access. Sustainable food must also be affordable and accessible. Initiatives that make healthy local food available to everyone include sliding scale CSA programs, adjusted prices for low-income families, subsidized farmers market vouchers linked to public health programs, urban agriculture initiatives, bringing production closer to underserved communities. A just transition ensures that sustainable farming benefits all, not just wealthier consumers. 12.10 Consumers as advocates. Beyond shopping choices, consumers can support policy change, vote for leaders and laws that invest in sustainable agriculture, join food co-ops, democratize food distribution, participate in farm tours and open days, build direct relationships with farmers. When eaters see themselves as partners in the food system, they become allies in building a better future. Chapter 13, The Future of Farming, Scenarios and Pathways. 13.1 Looking ahead. The decisions we make today will shape the global food system for generations. By 2050, the world's population is projected to reach nearly 10 billion people. Feeding everyone nutritiously while protecting the planet will require rethinking how we farm, trade, and consume food. Scenario planning helps us imagine possible futures and identify actions that can turn the best visions into reality. 13.2 Business as usual scenario. If we continue current trends, we may see increased industrialization, larger monocultures, more automation, and consolidation of farmland. Greater environmental pressure, continued soil erosion, water scarcity, and greenhouse gas emissions. Vulnerable food systems, supply chains at risk from climate shocks and geopolitical disruptions. Loss of biodiversity, wild species and pollinators under increasing threat. This scenario would likely keep food abundant in the short term, but at the cost of long-term resilience, leading to more frequent crises and rising inequality. 13.3 Sustainable Transition Scenario. In a moderate transition scenario, governments, farmers, and consumers make incremental improvements. Wider adoption of cover crops, reduced tillage, and efficient irrigation. More diversified farms, but still within conventional markets. Gradual reduction in fertilizer and pesticide use through precision tools. Expansion of organic and certified products, but still a niche segment. This scenario improves soil health, reduces emissions somewhat, and increases food security, but may not be fast enough to fully avert climate and biodiversity crises. 13.4 Regenerative Revolution Scenario. The most ambitious scenario envisions a full transformation of agriculture. Carbon-negative farming, soils and agroforestry systems become major carbon sinks. Circular economies, nutrients, water, and energy are fully recycled on farms. Land sharing and biodiversity corridors. Farmland doubles as habitat for pollinators, birds, and beneficial species. Localized food systems, shorter supply chains, reducing waste and emissions. Social justice. Farm workers are fairly paid, rural communities thrive, and everyone has access to healthy food. This scenario turns farms into engines of regeneration, reversing environmental damage while feeding the world sustainably. 13.5 Key Drivers of the Future. Several factors will determine which pathway we follow. Climate policy. Ambitious action can incentivize soil carbon storage and methane reduction. Consumer demand. Choosing sustainable diets pushes markets toward better practices. Technological innovation. Affordable precision tools and renewable energy accelerate adoption. Education and knowledge transfer. Empowering farmers globally to innovate and adapt. Global cooperation. Coordinated efforts to address shared challenges like climate change and trade inequities. 13.6 Resilience in the face of uncertainty. Even with strong planning, the future will bring surprises, from pandemics to supply chain disruptions to extreme weather. A resilient food system must diversify production, so no single shock collapses supply. Decentralize infrastructure. Reduce reliance on a few large players or regions. Invest in local capacity. Ensure communities can grow, process, and distribute food independently if needed. 13.7 The role of farmers as innovators. Farmers are not just producers but problem solvers and inventors. Future farms will be knowledge-intensive, using both ancestral wisdom and real-time data. Entrepreneurial, developing new markets, agri-tourism, and value-added products. Collaborative, working in networks, cooperatives, and learning communities. Supporting farmer-led innovation is key to scaling transformation globally. 13.8 Measuring success. By mid-century, success will look like global hunger eliminated and healthy diets accessible to all. Net zero or net negative agricultural emissions. Thriving rural communities with strong cultural identities. Rebuilt soils, restored watersheds, and stable ecosystems. Measuring these outcomes, not just yields, will redefine what it means for agriculture to succeed. 13.9 A shared vision. The future of farming is not just up to farmers, it is a collective effort involving policymakers who set fair rules and reward stewardship. Consumers who choose food that reflects their values. Scientists and innovators who develop tools to regenerate ecosystems. Educators and activists who inspire public commitment. Together, these groups can co-create a food system that sustains life rather than depletes it. 13.10 The path forward. The window for action is closing, but optimism is justified. Regenerative farms, innovative policies, and shifting consumer habits are already pointing the way forward. The challenge now is scaling these solutions quickly enough to meet the needs of a growing world, without sacrificing the health of future generations. Chapter 14, From Vision to Action, Roadmaps for Sustainable Farming. 14.1, The Challenge of Transition. Transitioning to sustainable or regenerative farming can be daunting. Farmers face tight margins, entrenched habits, and market pressures that reward yield over long-term stewardship. Success requires careful planning, incremental steps, and support from communities, markets, and policymakers. This chapter offers practical guidance for moving from concept to practice, turning ideas into measurable progress on real farms. 14.2 Step 1. Assess the current situation. Before making changes, farmers need a clear understanding of their starting point. Soil health assessment. Test for organic matter, pH, and biological activity. Water audit. Evaluate usage, sources, and efficiency. Nutrient balance. Track inputs and outputs to identify waste. Economic review. Understand profitability by enterprise, crops, livestock. Labor and equipment inventory. Determine capacity for change. This baseline will guide priorities and make it possible to measure improvement. 14.3 Step 2 Set goals. Goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART. Examples. Increase soil organic matter by 1% in 5 years. Reduce synthetic fertilizer use by 30% over 3 seasons. Diversify crop rotation to include at least 3 new species next year. Install solar panels to meet 50% of on-farm energy needs within 5 years. Clear goals create focus and accountability. 14.4 Step 3 Plan the transition. A step-by-step plan reduces risk and spreads costs. Prioritize low-cost wins. Start with changes like cover cropping, residue management, or composting. Phase in major investments. Schedule big expenses, e.g., irrigation upgrades, when financially viable. Pilot test new practices. Try on a small portion of land before scaling up. Integrate enterprises gradually. Add livestock, agroforestry, or new crops over time to maintain balance. 14.5 Step 4 Secure financing. Transitioning often requires upfront investment. Funding sources include government incentives, conservation payments, carbon credits, or grants. Cooperative financing. Pool resources with other farmers for shared infrastructure. Green loans. Offered by banks or credit unions for energy and efficiency upgrades. Crowdfunding and CSAs. Raise capital directly from the community. Creative financing ensures that cash flow is not a barrier to innovation. 14.6 Step 5 Build knowledge and skills. Education is key to successful adoption. Workshops and field days. Learn from peers who have already made the transition. Online courses and webinars. Access global expertise from anywhere. Mentorship programs. Pair with experienced regenerative farmers. Farm trials and experiments. Gather local data to refine techniques. Continuous learning reduces mistakes and builds confidence. 14.7 Step 6 Monitor and adapt. Transition is a process of experimentation. Farmers should keep detailed records of yields, costs, and soil metrics. Use farm management software to track progress. Meet regularly with advisors or peer networks to discuss results. Adjust strategies when something is not working. Flexibility is essential. 14.8 Step 7 Engage the community. Sustainable farming thrives when it is rooted in community. Host farm tours and open days to share progress. Partner with local schools and organizations to build awareness. Collaborate with neighboring farms to create shared habitat corridors or co-market products. A supportive network multiplies the impact of individual efforts. 14.9 Step 8 Tell your story. Sharing successes helps inspire others and build demand for sustainable products. Use social media to showcase practices and results. Work with local media or farm advocacy groups to reach wider audiences. Apply for sustainability awards or certifications that validate achievements. Storytelling transforms farms into models for change. 14.10 Scaling up. Once core systems are working, farmers can scale impact. Expand regenerative practices to more acreage. Integrate agroforestry, silvopasture, or perennial crops. Innovate new value-added products or on-farm enterprises. Mentor other farmers who are starting their transition. Scaling up builds momentum, turning isolated examples into a regional or national movement. Chapter 15. Measuring what matters, tracking progress in sustainable farming. 15.1 Why measurement matters. The old saying goes, you can't manage what you don't measure. Without data, it's impossible to know whether farming practices are truly improving soil health, cutting emissions, or increasing resilience. Measurement creates accountability, builds trust with consumers and policymakers, and helps farmers make data-driven decisions. In this chapter, we explore the key indicators and methods for verifying sustainability outcomes. 15.2 Core categories of measurement. A holistic approach to sustainable farming must consider three dimensions: environmental metrics, soil health, water use, carbon sequestration, biodiversity; economic metrics, profitability, input efficiency, risk reduction; social metrics, worker well-being, community engagement, food access. Each dimension reinforces the others. A truly sustainable farm performs well across all three. 15.3 Soil health indicators. Healthy soil is the foundation of sustainability. Key metrics include soil organic matter (SOM), the most important measure of fertility and carbon storage. Aggregate stability indicates resilience against erosion. Microbial biomass shows biological activity and nutrient cycling potential. Soil pH and nutrient profile ensures balance for optimal plant growth. Bulk density and infiltration rate measure compaction and water holding capacity. Soil samples should be taken regularly, at least annually, and tracked over time. 15.4 Water use and quality. Water metrics help farmers optimize irrigation and protect watersheds. Water use efficiency, WUE, crop yield per unit of water applied. Groundwater levels, track depletion or recharge rates. Runoff and leaching tests, monitor nutrient or pesticide escape. Water quality, measure nitrate levels, turbidity, and microbial contamination downstream. 15.5 Carbon and greenhouse gas accounting. To align with climate goals, farms can measure soil carbon sequestration, using soil core sampling or remote sensing. GHG emissions, methane from livestock, nitrous oxide from fertilizers, carbon dioxide from fuel. Carbon footprint per unit of production, e.g., kilogram carbon dioxide E per liter of milk or kilogram of grain. Digital platforms and blockchain-based carbon registries are emerging to certify these outcomes and enable farmers to earn carbon credits. 15.6 Biodiversity monitoring. Biodiversity is harder to measure, but equally vital. Indicators include species counts, pollinators, birds, beneficial insects. Habitat quality, percentage of land under hedgerows, wildflower strips, or agroforestry. Crop diversity index, number and variety of species grown annually. Soil biodiversity, DNA sequencing can reveal microbial richness. Partnerships with local universities or NGOs can make monitoring feasible and credible. 15.7 Economic performance metrics. Sustainability must make business sense. Farmers should track net profit per acre, the ultimate measure of economic viability. Return on investment (ROI), especially for new practices like composting or drip irrigation. Input costs, fertilizer, pesticides, fuel, aiming for reduction over time. Risk exposure, measured by crop insurance claims or volatility in yields. 15.8 Social and community impact. Sustainable farming also supports people. Fair wages and working conditions, tracking compliance with labor standards. Food access metrics, proportion of farm output sold locally or donated. Community engagement, participation in farmers markets, education programs, co-ops. Farmer well-being, mental health surveys and workload assessments. 15.9 Data collection tools. Modern technology makes measurement easier than ever. Soil sensors and drones, real-time monitoring of soil moisture and crop health. Mobile apps for logging inputs, yields, and labor. Satellite imagery for tracking land use change and biomass growth. Farm management software integrates financial and agronomic data into dashboards. Combining traditional observation with digital tools gives a complete picture. 15.10 Verification and certification. Independent verification ensures credibility. Third-party audits, organic, regenerative, or fair trade certifications. Peer-to-peer verification, farmer groups checking each other's practices. Open data sharing, transparency builds trust with consumers and policymakers. Verification creates market incentives by allowing farmers to sell into premium value chains. Chapter 16, Technology and Innovation, Tools for the Future of Farming. 16.1 The role of technology. Technology is not a silver bullet, but it can be a powerful ally in creating a regenerative food system. When designed thoughtfully, technology increases efficiency, reducing waste of inputs like water, fertilizer, and fuel. Supports soil health, enabling precise low-impact management. Improves data collection, providing farmers with actionable insights. Enhances resilience, helping farms adapt to climate variability. The key is to adopt technology that works with natural systems, not against them. 16.2 Precision agriculture. Precision agriculture uses data to guide farming decisions at a fine scale. GPS-guided equipment enables precise planting, tillage, and input application. Variable rate technology, VRT, adjusts fertilizer or seed density by soil zone. Remote sensing, drones and satellites monitor crop health, water stress, and pest outbreaks. Soil sensors track moisture, temperature, and nutrient availability in real time. These tools reduce chemical use, cut costs, and limit environmental impact. 16.3 Robotics and automation. Robotics can ease labor shortages and increase accuracy. Autonomous tractors perform planting or weeding with minimal soil compaction. Robotic weeders target weeds mechanically, reducing herbicide needs. Automated harvesters, especially useful for fruits and vegetables where labor is scarce. Drone sprayers apply inputs precisely even in small or hard-to-reach fields. Robotics can make small, diversified farms more competitive by lowering labor intensity. 16.4 Artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning. AI analyzes complex datasets to optimize farm operations. Yield forecasting predicts harvest size and timing. Disease detection identifies early symptoms via computer vision. Decision support systems recommend best times for planting, irrigation, or harvesting. Climate modeling helps farmers plan for extreme weather scenarios. AI turns data into actionable insights, empowering better decisions. 16.5 Biotechnology and breeding. Biotech offers opportunities and controversies. Sustainable farming can benefit from crop varieties for resilience, drought-tolerant, pest-resistant, or nutrient-efficient plants. Marker-assisted breeding speeds up traditional breeding while preserving genetic diversity. Biological inputs, microbial inoculants that fix nitrogen or suppress pathogens. Ethical use of biotechnology should prioritize diversity, farmer sovereignty, and ecological safety. 16.6 Renewable energy on farms. Energy is a major input for farming. Sustainable farms are increasingly turning to Solar panels, powering irrigation pumps and on-farm processing. Biogas digesters, turning manure and crop residues into energy. Wind turbines, supplying electricity for rural operations. Energy efficiency upgrades, reducing fuel and electricity costs. Energy independence improves farm resilience and lowers carbon emissions. 16.7 Digital marketplaces and supply chains. Technology is also reshaping how farmers reach consumers. Online platforms, direct-to-consumer sales of CSA shares or specialty products. Blockchain, improves traceability and builds trust in sustainability claims. Supply chain optimization, reduces food waste and shortens time from farm to table. Digital tools help small farms compete with industrial players by connecting them to new markets. 16.8 Open source and accessible tech. For technology to serve all farmers, it must be affordable and adaptable. Low-cost sensors and apps, designed for smallholder farmers in developing countries. Farmer-led innovation, communities creating their own equipment and sharing plans online. Open data initiatives, ensuring equal access to climate, soil, and market information. Equity in technology access ensures no one is left behind in the transition. 16.9 Balancing high-tech with low-tech. Not every solution needs cutting-edge tech. Sometimes, hand tools and draft animals can be more sustainable than heavy machinery. Traditional knowledge can complement modern science. Community collaboration may achieve more than expensive equipment. The best farms blend innovation with time-tested practices, using technology where it adds real value. 16.10 Risks and ethical considerations. New technologies raise important questions. Who owns the data collected on farms? Will automation displace rural jobs or create new ones? Could tech deepen inequality between wealthy and smallholder farmers? Are we creating dependencies on proprietary systems? Ethical frameworks and inclusive innovation are needed to ensure technology serves the common good. Chapter 17. Collaboration and networks, scaling change together. 17.1 Why collaboration matters. No farm, no community, and no country can transform the food system alone. Collaboration allows shared knowledge. Farmers learn from each other's successes and failures. Shared resources, co-ops and partnerships lower costs and risks. Shared advocacy, collective voices influence policy and markets. Networks amplify the impact of individual actions, turning scattered innovations into large-scale movements. 17.2 Farmer-to-farmer knowledge exchange. One of the most effective ways to spread sustainable practices is peer learning. Field days and demonstrations, farmers can see results firsthand. Study circles, small groups meet regularly to discuss problems and solutions. Mentorship programs, experienced regenerative farmers guide newcomers. Online forums and social media groups break down geographical barriers to knowledge sharing. When farmers teach each other, adoption rates are faster and more enduring than top-down programs. 17.3 Cooperatives and producer organizations. Cooperatives strengthen farmers' economic power. Input co-ops, bulk purchase seeds, tools, or organic amendments at lower cost. Marketing co-ops, pool harvests to access larger buyers and negotiate better prices. Processing co-ops, build shared infrastructure like grain mills, dairies, or cold storage. Energy co-ops, invest in renewable power generation for multiple farms. Collective action helps small farms compete with industrial-scale producers. 17.4 Research and farmer-scientist partnerships. Collaborations between farmers and researchers create practical science-based solutions. On-farm trials, farmers test new methods under real conditions. Participatory breeding programs, farmers help select varieties suited to local needs. Citizen science projects, monitor soil carbon, pollinator populations, or climate impacts. When research is co-created, it becomes more relevant and quickly applied. 17.5 Multi-stakeholder platforms. Beyond farmers and scientists, networks can include policymakers, shape incentives and remove barriers. Food companies, commit to sustainable sourcing. Consumers, advocate for and buy regenerative products. NGOs, provide training, funding, and advocacy. Platforms that bring diverse actors together can align incentives across the entire food system. 17.6 International knowledge networks. Sustainability challenges cross borders. Global networks share strategies for soil restoration, climate adaptation, and food security. FAO Agroecology Knowledge Hub connects governments and practitioners worldwide. Global Alliance for Climate-Smart Agriculture promotes climate resilience. Seed exchange networks preserve genetic diversity and cultural heritage. International cooperation allows regions to learn from each other's successes and avoid repeating mistakes. 17.7 Community-based initiatives. Local action can be just as powerful as global networks. Food policy councils bring together farmers, retailers, schools, and citizens. Urban-rural partnerships link cities with surrounding farms for fresh local food. Watershed groups collaborate on soil and water conservation projects. Community land trusts keep farmland affordable and protect it from development. Strong local ties create resilient food systems that withstand shocks. 17.8 Digital platforms for collaboration. Technology has supercharged networking opportunities. Virtual conferences and webinars allow global participation without travel. Knowledge hubs curate best practices, research papers, and case studies. Mapping tools help farmers find local suppliers, compost sources, or grazing partners. Blockchain and traceability systems build transparency and trust among supply chain participants. Digital tools make collaboration accessible to even remote or small-scale farmers. 17.9 The power of collective advocacy. When farmers organize, they can shift entire industries. Campaigns for fair prices and market access. Lobbying for supportive policy frameworks and climate funding. Public education efforts to raise awareness of sustainable farming benefits. Collective action helps shape a future where sustainable agriculture is the norm rather than the niche. 17.10 Collaboration as a cultural shift. True collaboration goes beyond strategy, it is a mindset. It means viewing other farmers as partners, not competitors. Sharing failures as openly as successes. Embracing diversity of knowledge, indigenous, scientific, and experiential. Building trust over time through transparency and reciprocity. A culture of collaboration is perhaps the most powerful technology we have for systemic change. Chapter 18 Education and Training Building Skills for the Future. 18.1 Why Education Matters. Knowledge is the backbone of agricultural transformation. Farmers adopting regenerative practices often face steep learning curves, new rotations, new tools, new financial models. Consumers must also learn to value and support sustainable food systems. Education closes these gaps and empowers every actor in the food chain to make informed decisions. 18.2 Agricultural Education and Reform. Many agricultural universities and colleges still emphasize industrial models of farming. Reform is needed to integrate agroecology, soil health science, and climate adaptation into curricula. Teach systems thinking so students see the farm as part of an ecosystem. Offer hands-on experiences, including farm apprenticeships and field research. Address socioeconomic aspects, policy, equity, and food justice alongside agronomy. Graduates should leave school prepared not just to grow food, but to steward landscapes. 18.3 Farmer Training and Extension Services. Continuing education is critical for working farmers. Extension agents provide region-specific technical advice on soil, water, and pest management. Workshops and field schools teach new practices like composting, rotational grazing, or agroforestry. Demonstration farms show practical results, giving farmers confidence to try new methods. Farmer-to-farmer training. Peer mentorship often works faster than top-down instruction. Investment in extension services is one of the most cost-effective ways to scale sustainability. 18.4 Apprenticeships and mentorship. The next generation of farmers needs opportunities to learn by doing. On-farm apprenticeships give aspiring farmers experience in planting, harvesting, marketing, and finances. Incubator farms provide land, equipment, and business coaching for new farmers to launch their own operations. Mentorship networks connect young farmers with experienced practitioners who can guide them through challenges. These programs ensure the transfer of knowledge and keep rural communities vibrant. 18.5 Youth engagement. Children and teenagers must be included in the conversation about food and farming. School gardens teach biology, nutrition, and respect for the land. Farm visits help students understand where their food comes from. Agricultural clubs, 4-H, FFA, build leadership skills and interest in farming careers. Storytelling and media projects empower young people to share food-related narratives in creative ways. Inspiring youth creates a pipeline of future farmers, scientists, and food advocates. 18.6 Community education and food literacy. Food education should not stop with children. Adults benefit from cooking and nutrition classes show how to prepare healthy seasonal meals. Workshops on food waste reduction teach storage, preservation, and composting. Consumer awareness campaigns explain the true cost of cheap food and benefits of local purchasing. Communities that are food literate make more sustainable choices and support local farmers. 18.7 Policy and leadership training. Education is also crucial for policymakers, activists, and food system leaders. Leadership institutes train participants in food policy advocacy and systems change. Interdisciplinary courses bring together students of agriculture, economics, public health, and law. Scenario planning exercises prepare decision-makers to navigate climate and market shocks. Empowered leaders can craft better policies and mobilize support for regenerative agriculture. 18.8 Digital and open access education. Technology expands reach and lowers barriers. Online courses and MOOCs make advanced training available globally, often for free. Podcasts and webinars deliver knowledge to farmers even in remote areas. Open source curriculum allow anyone to adapt and share educational materials. Virtual reality and simulations offer interactive training experiences without risk. Digital tools democratize education and create global communities of practice. 18.9 Bridging traditional and scientific knowledge. True education honors both scientific research and indigenous ancestral wisdom. Work with local elders and traditional farmers to document techniques. Validate and integrate indigenous practices that have sustained ecosystems for centuries. Encourage respectful collaboration rather than one-way knowledge transfer. This approach ensures solutions are culturally relevant and ecologically sound. 18.10 Education as empowerment. Education is more than technical training, it's empowerment. It helps farmers make independent decisions instead of relying solely on input companies. Innovate and adapt as conditions change. Advocate for fair policies and stronger markets. An educated food system workforce is resilient, creative, and capable of leading the transition to a better future. Chapter 19. Financing the Transition, Funding a Sustainable Future. 19.1 Why Financing Matters. Transitioning to sustainable farming is not just a technical challenge, it's a financial one. New equipment, infrastructure, and practices often require upfront investment, while benefits, like improved soil health or lower input costs, may take years to materialize. Without adequate financing, many farmers are stuck in a cycle of short-term survival, unable to risk change. This chapter explores funding models and financial tools that make sustainability economically viable. 19.2 The true cost of transition. The shift to regenerative practices involves capital costs, drip irrigation systems, composting facilities, fencing for rotational grazing. Operational costs, purchasing cover crop seed, training labor, experimenting with new rotations. Transition risk, possible yield dips during early years as soil and ecosystems rebalance. Market uncertainty, difficulty finding premium buyers during initial adoption. Recognizing these costs helps design better support systems for farmers. 19.3 Public investment and government incentives. Governments play a critical role in de-risking the transition. Cost-share programs cover a percentage of expenses for soil conservation, water efficiency, and renewable energy. Direct subsidies for ecosystem services, payments for carbon sequestration, pollinator habitat, or erosion control. Tax incentives, deductions or credits for adopting regenerative infrastructure. Transition insurance protects farmers from revenue loss during early adoption years. Such programs make regenerative practices competitive with conventional approaches. 19.4 Private finance and green investment. Private capital is increasingly flowing into sustainable agriculture. Impact investors fund projects that deliver both financial returns and environmental benefits. Green bonds raise capital for climate-positive agricultural initiatives. Sustainable venture capital back ag-tech startups focused on soil health, precision tools, or alternative proteins. Loan guarantees de-risk lending to farmers adopting new practices. Aligning profit with planet attracts institutional investors and accelerates innovation. 19.5 Cooperative and community-based financing. Communities can pool resources to support local farmers. Farmer cooperatives share infrastructure and equipment costs. Community investment funds. Residents collectively finance farmland protection or transition projects. Crowdfunding allows customers to pre-purchase food, CSA models, or fund specific projects. Food hubs. Aggregate demand to justify shared processing facilities and distribution networks. This model strengthens local economies and keeps wealth circulating in rural areas. 19.6 Carbon markets and ecosystem service payments. Farmers can earn income by sequestering carbon and delivering ecological benefits. Carbon credits sell verified soil carbon sequestration or methane reduction to companies seeking offsets. Water quality credits paid for reducing nutrient runoff into watersheds. Biodiversity credits reward habitat restoration and conservation. Clear, fair accounting systems are crucial to ensure farmers are paid accurately and promptly. 19.7 Blended finance and risk sharing. Blended finance combines public, private, and philanthropic capital. First loss guarantees. Philanthropy absorbs initial risk, encouraging private investment. Low-interest transition loans, offered in partnership with development banks. Performance-based grants reward measurable improvements in soil carbon or water quality. This approach makes financing accessible to smallholders and reduces systemic risk. 19.8 Microfinance for smallholders. In developing regions, small farmers often lack collateral for traditional loans. Solutions include group lending. Farmers form borrowing groups, collectively guaranteeing repayment. Mobile banking platforms deliver microloans directly via phone. Flexible repayment plans linked to harvest cycles or market prices. Microfinance can unlock regenerative agriculture for millions of smallholder farmers worldwide. 19.9 Building financial literacy. Access to money is only part of the equation. Farmers must also manage it well. Training on budgeting and record keeping. Track costs and returns for each enterprise. Scenario planning. Prepare for market shocks and climate risks. Investment analysis Understand ROI on new equipment or land improvements. Succession planning. Secure farm continuity across generations. Financial literacy strengthens farm viability and reduces reliance on external debt. 19.10 The long-term view. Financing sustainability requires patient capital, willing to wait for returns that may come as improved soil productivity, climate resilience, and rural prosperity. The payoff is enormous. Healthier ecosystems that reduce disaster costs, lower input expenses, and more resilient yields over time. Stable rural economies that keep communities alive. Funding the transition is an investment not just in farms, but in future food security and planetary stability. Chapter 20: Social Justice and Equity in Agriculture, a Fair Food Future. 20.1 Why Justice Matters. Sustainability without equity is incomplete. A food system that regenerates soil but exploits labor, displaces smallholders, or marginalizes communities is not truly sustainable. Social justice ensures that the benefits of sustainable farming, healthier food, resilient ecosystems, and thriving economies are shared fairly. 20.2 Land Access and Tenure. Access to land is one of the biggest barriers to entry for new farmers. Land prices. In many regions, farmland is prohibitively expensive. Speculation and development pressure push land out of reach for working farmers. Land tenure insecurity. Smallholders face eviction risks that discourage long-term investment in soil health. Solutions. Community land trusts hold land collectively and lease it affordably to farmers. Agrarian reform programs redistribute land more equitably where historical injustice persists. Farmland succession support help aging farmers transfer land to the next generation instead of developers. 20.3 Fair labor and workers' rights. Many agricultural workers face low wages, unsafe conditions, and lack of legal protections. A just system must provide living wages, enough to support a dignified life, safe and healthy workplaces, proper equipment, shade breaks, and healthcare access. Legal protections, including the right to organize, overtime pay, and protection from exploitation. Pathways to ownership, opportunities for farm workers to become farm owners or co-op members. 20.4 Inclusion of marginalized farmers. Women, indigenous peoples, and minority farmers are often excluded from decision-making or denied equal access to resources. Credit and training, tailored programs to ensure equal access. Representation, seats at the table where policies and markets are shaped. Recognition of traditional knowledge, valuing indigenous and ancestral practices as part of the solution. Gender equity initiatives address barriers like land inheritance laws and access to capital. 20.5 Food sovereignty. Social justice in agriculture also means giving communities power over their food systems. Local control. Farmers and eaters decide what is grown, how, and for whom. Support for small-scale farmers. Counterbalance corporate concentration in agriculture. Seed sovereignty. Protect the right to save, share, and breed seeds. Cultural relevance. Ensure that diets reflect local traditions and preferences. 20.6 Racial and historical justice. Agriculture in many countries is built on histories of displacement, enslavement, and exploitation. Addressing these legacies requires acknowledgement, recognizing the harms done to indigenous peoples, enslaved workers, and migrant laborers. Restorative programs, land-back initiatives, grants for historically excluded farmers, and scholarships for ag education. Anti-discrimination policies prevent bias in lending, crop insurance, and government support. 20.7 Economic equity across the supply chain. Fairness must extend beyond the farm. Transparent pricing. Farmers receive a fair share of retail prices. Support for local processors and distributors. Reduce dependency on monopolies. Consumer access. Programs like sliding scale CSAs and nutrition incentives make healthy food affordable for all. Equitable food systems strengthen both producers and consumers. 20.8 Climate justice. Vulnerable communities are often hit hardest by climate change, despite contributing the least to the problem. Climate-smart agriculture should prioritize support for smallholders, tools and finance to adapt to drought, floods, and heat waves. Disaster relief access, rapid response funding for climate-related losses. Participation in climate policy, inclusion of local voices in adaptation planning. Justice ensures no one is left behind in the transition to resilience. 20.9 Measuring equity. Progress requires clear metrics. Percentage of farmland owned by women or minority farmers. Wage levels and labor protections for farm workers. Access to healthy food in underserved communities. Representation of marginalized groups in decision-making bodies. Tracking these indicators keeps accountability at the heart of the food transition. 20.10 Justice as a cornerstone of sustainability. A food system cannot be considered sustainable unless it is also fair. Equity, inclusion, and justice are not optional add-ons. They are the foundation for a food future that is resilient, democratic, and nourishing for everyone. Chapter 21. The Future of Sustainable Farming, Trends, Innovations, and Scenarios. 21.1 Why look ahead? The future of farming is not fixed. It is shaped by the choices we make today. Considering possible futures allows us to prepare, adapt, and guide agriculture toward a path that is both ecologically sound and socially just. This chapter explores emerging technologies, climate scenarios, and systemic shifts that could define the next 20 to 50 years. 21.2 Climate change as a defining force. The single most powerful driver of change will be the climate crisis. Shifts in growing zones, crops migrate northward or to higher altitudes. Extreme weather, more frequent droughts, floods, and storms require resilient farming systems. Water scarcity forces innovation in irrigation, rainwater capture, and drought-tolerant crops. Carbon sequestration mandates. Farmers may be rewarded or required to store carbon in soils. Climate change will favor farms that diversify, adapt quickly, and build soil health. 21.3 Technological innovations. Technology is rapidly transforming how we grow food. Precision agriculture, GPS-guided tractors, drones, and sensors optimize inputs and minimize waste. AI-driven decision-making. Algorithms analyze soil data, weather, and markets to recommend actions. Biotechnology. New tools like CRISPR allow targeted breeding for climate resilience. Automation and robotics. Reduce labor burdens but raise questions about equity and access. Vertical farming and controlled environment agriculture. Grow food in cities using minimal water and land. Sustainable adoption of technology will require careful regulation, equitable access, and a focus on ecological outcomes. 21.4 Circular and regenerative economies. The linear take-make-dispose model is giving way to circular systems. Nutrient cycling, composting, biochar, and waste-to-fertilizer technologies close the loop. Renewable energy farms, solar, wind, and biogas power agricultural operations. Zero-waste supply chains. Innovations in packaging and logistics reduce food loss from farm to fork. These systems mimic natural cycles, reducing external inputs and pollution. 21.5 The rise of alternative proteins. Protein production is a major driver of land use and emissions. The future may see plant-based meat and dairy alternatives, already growing rapidly in popularity. Cultivated, lab-grown meat, potentially reducing the need for industrial animal agriculture. Insect protein, high-efficiency source of feed or food with low resource use. How these alternatives integrate with regenerative grazing systems will be a key question for sustainability. 21.6 Decentralization and relocalization. Globalized supply chains are vulnerable to disruption, as seen during pandemics and conflicts. The future may bring regional food systems, reducing dependence on imports and building local resilience. Distributed infrastructure, small-scale mills, dairies, and processing facilities near farms. Direct-to-consumer models, e-commerce and digital marketplaces connecting farmers with eaters. This shift strengthens food security and keeps wealth in local communities. 21.7 Policy and global governance. Future agricultural policy will need to balance food security, ensuring stable supply for growing populations. Climate goals, meeting emissions targets and restoring ecosystems. Trade fairness, avoiding exploitation of farmers in developing nations. Biodiversity protection, preserving wild lands while producing enough food. International cooperation will be crucial as climate and market pressures intensify. 21.8 Social and cultural shifts. Changing consumer values will reshape demand. Transparency, people want to know how and where their food was grown. Health-conscious eating, more interest in nutrient density and food as medicine. Ethical consumption, preference for fair trade, humane and regenerative products. Urban farming movements, city dwellers taking an active role in food production. Farmers and food companies must adapt to meet these evolving expectations. 21.9 Possible future scenarios. We can imagine several possible futures. Regenerative revolution, widespread adoption of soil building, biodiversity-friendly practices creates climate resilience. Technofarm future, high-tech data-driven farming dominates but risks excluding smallholders. Crisis farming, if climate change and soil degradation outpace adaptation, food insecurity and conflict rise. Hybrid path, combining traditional wisdom, cutting-edge tech, and strong policy to build a balanced future. Which future we get depends on the decisions we make now, on education, financing, justice, and collaboration. 21.10 Choosing the future we want. The future of farming is not destiny, it is design. Farmers, consumers, scientists, and policymakers must work together to invest in soil health, the foundation of long-term productivity. Prioritize equity, ensure access to land, markets, and knowledge for all. Adopt appropriate tech, tools that serve people and ecosystems, not just profit. Plan for resilience, prepare for shocks, from climate disasters to supply chain breakdowns. A hopeful, regenerative future is possible if we act boldly, collectively, and soon. Chapter 22, Conclusion and Call to Action, Cultivating the Future. 22.1 Looking back, what we've learned. Over the past 21 chapters, we've explored the many dimensions of sustainable farming, from soil health and water management to finance, equity, and global collaboration. Together, these pieces form a vision of farming that is regenerative, resilient, and just. We have seen that the soil is alive, and caring for it is the foundation of productivity. Water, biodiversity, and energy must be managed wisely to create resilient farms. Sustainable farming is not just technical, but also economic, cultural, and political. Collaboration, education, and financing are key to scaling change. A truly sustainable food system must center justice, equity, and inclusion. The future of farming will be shaped by choices we make right now. 22.2 The urgency of action. We stand at a crossroads. Climate change threatens to destabilize food systems. Soil degradation continues to erode our natural capital. Inequity still keeps too many farmers and eaters locked out of opportunity. But we also have unprecedented tools, knowledge, and momentum. The question is whether we will act fast enough to secure a thriving food future. 22.3 The role of farmers. Farmers are the stewards of the land, and central to any transformation. Experiment, adopt, and adapt regenerative practices. Share knowledge with neighbors, and participate in farmer networks. Track soil health, water use, and biodiversity to measure progress. Advocate for policies that reward good stewardship and protect small producers. Even small steps, planting cover crops, diversifying rotations, or reducing synthetic inputs add up across millions of farms. 22.4 The role of policymakers. Governments must create the conditions that make sustainable choices, the easy ones. Redirect subsidies toward practices that build soil and sequester carbon. Provide research, extension, and infrastructure support for local food systems. Develop fair regulations that protect ecosystems without overburdening farmers. Foster global cooperation on climate, biodiversity, and food security. Policy can accelerate the shift to regenerative agriculture or slow it down. 22.5 The role of consumers. Every eater has power. Buy from farmers who use sustainable and ethical practices. Support local food systems through farmers markets, CSAs, and co-ops. Waste less food and compost what remains. Use your voice to demand transparency, fairness, and sustainability from companies and governments. Millions of small choices can shift entire markets. 22.6 The role of businesses and investors. Private sector players can unlock capital and innovation. Invest in climate-positive agriculture and regenerative supply chains. Support fair pricing and transparent sourcing. Partner with farmers to reduce risk and share benefits. Measure and report on environmental and social impacts. Business can be a powerful ally in scaling sustainable farming when profit aligns with purpose. 22.7 Building a global movement. This is bigger than any single farmer, consumer, or policymaker. The food system is global, and so must be the movement to transform it. Collaboration across borders will share innovations and avoid repeating mistakes. Build resilient trade systems that work for all nations. Protect biodiversity that transcends political boundaries. A global challenge demands global solidarity. 22.8 Hope as a strategy. Though the challenges are immense, hope is not naive, it is strategic. Around the world, millions of farmers are regenerating soils, restoring watersheds, and proving that another way is possible. The future is already being written in thriving agroforestry systems, resilient community co-ops, and classrooms where the next generation is learning how to feed the world without destroying it. 22.9 Your call to action. Whether you are a farmer, policymaker, entrepreneur, or eater, you have a role to play. Learn. Continue educating yourself about sustainable farming and food systems. Act. Implement one change, however small, to make your food choices more sustainable. Support. Advocate for policies, businesses, and research that accelerate the transition. Share. Inspire others by telling the stories of farmers, innovators, and communities who are leading the way. Every action counts, and collective action changes history. 22.10 Cultivating the future. Sustainable farming is not just about feeding the world, it is about healing the world. It is about reconnecting with the living soil, respecting the limits of ecosystems, and designing a food system that nourishes people and planet for generations to come. The seed has been planted. The future harvest depends on what we do today. Let us cultivate a future where farming is not a driver of crisis, but a force for regeneration, justice, and abundance.